Hello, PJTV fans. I'm Andrew Klavan, and I'm here with my co-host. You've all heard of Black Lives Matter. Bill Whittle is here. He is the president of White Lives Are Fantastic.
The organization I represent is Conservative Pundits That Fly and Have Great Hairs Lives Matter. That's the organization that I'm the president of.
And to hell with the rest of it.
That's right.
All right, your question today comes from the people that Kanye West look up to for financial advice. I'm sure that's absolutely true of the PJTV producers, and for advice on class and elegance. Was O.J. Simpson actually guilty?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, we'll be back again next week. Yeah.
You can make the case that that this current racial divide that Obama has done so much to exploit really came down to that period between the Rodney King riots and O.J. Simpson. I, for the life of me, cannot remember which came first. The King riots.
The riots came first. Yeah.
Yeah, both here in L.A. I remember watching the trial of the Rodney King policeman, and I remember hearing look, I have a lot of respect for law enforcement, I really do. And I remember them hearing about how we had the high-speed chase, which wasn't there, and that it was belligerent, maybe shoving guys around and so on. But when they were doing the trial of the policeman, the defense attorneys were like saying, let's back up that video 2 frames, and you can see, now run 4 frames forward. You can see that Mr. King, his shoulder is coming up, he's getting up to resist, he's getting up to do all this other stuff. And I thought, yeah, but if you play this in real speed, it's 5 guys with clubs beating the crap of a guy who's down on the ground, right? Once he's on the ground, handcuff him and put him in the car. It was outrageous what those cops did. Outrageous. And so you have the riots and all the rest of it. And it's almost like OJ was the revenge for this, you know, that they were gonna that they had suffered so much injustice, which is fundamentally, I think, in many cases true, that they'd suffered so much injustice that by OJ winning, it was like an antitoxin in a way. It's like, oh, we won one, even though I know, you know, everybody knows that he was innocent. Not a person in America, not one, thought he was actually not guilty. After the fact, you talk to black Americans and they say, of course we knew he was guilty. We just wanted to win one for the team, you know. But if winning one for the team is, for both cases, if winning one for white America is these cops basically being acquitted when they pounded the daylights out of a guy who was on the ground, just watch the video. I mean, it's not hard to see, right? If that's not police brutality, I don't know what is. For those guys to be acquitted is not winning one for white America, and for this murdering savage who butchered 2 people, for him to win one is not a victory for black America. Both of them are catastrophes for the idea of the rule of law and fairness, and these 2 things have to be bookended together. There are 2 injustices that happened, and I think it made people not only lose faith in the justice system, but each fundamentally think that the other side now is rooting for injustice inflicted onto the other team.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I believe that the minute you start talking in racial terms, you go insane.
Yeah.
Anybody. And that's not because there may be differences between race. We don't know. You know, I mean, genetics is a very, very young science, and people are really finding out things we don't know. We may know things, the traits that a race has, but we don't know how long it takes to change them. It might take 1 generation, you know, to go from being a short race to being a tall race, a dumb race to being a smart race. We don't know, you know. Those are things that are still very, very much up for grabs. There's evidence now that the way a father lives even affects a baby he conceives. You know, so we really don't know what affects genetics and all this stuff. But the minute you start talking morally in racial terms, Black Lives Matter, or, you know, there's got to be white justice, or there's got to be black justice, you have gone insane. And that's what happened with the OJ trial. There's a very interesting miniseries playing on FX right now of the OJ trial. It's called The People versus OJ Simpson. And it's based on a book by a guy named Jeffrey Toobin, who is, as far as I can make out, a far left nutbag, and yet the movie is very, very fair as far as I can tell. It shows you that the evidence was clear. I mean, there was basically a trail of blood going from the murder scene back to OJ's house, you know, with a bloody glove and all this. It was absurd. It was absurd.
Yes.
But it also shows you how blind the white prosecution team was to the animosity that the Rodney King riots and the long time and provable abuse of the LAPD of black people in this city, the animosity it had built up, the sense of oppression. And you know, I'm not somebody who believes that feelings trump facts, but I am somebody who believes that feelings are a fact. They are part of they're part of the atmosphere that we live in. And if our neighbors who are black feel entirely oppressed, it doesn't always help to point to a chalkboard and say, yes, but look at the facts, and here are the facts and figures. It does help to go into those neighborhoods, which, by the way, I feel that our side does far, far too little, and say, look, let's talk. Let's sit down. Let's have it out. Let's not scream at each other. Let's not wag our fingers. Let us tell you without. You know, they're always saying on the left we have to have a conversation about race, but what they really mean by that is we're going to browbeat you until you agree with us. That's not a conversation. I think we should have a real conversation about race, where white people talk about the crime and the fact that they feel fear when they see a black man on the street, and that they shouldn't necessarily be condemned for that. And black people, talk about their sense that they are under the gun all the time. That would be a real conversation, and I could actually see that being helpful, but that's not what usually happens. The O.J. Simpson trial didn't start the racial divide, but it did kind of bring to the fore how bad things were. And I lived out of the country at the time, and I remember coming back into the country and white people saying to me, can you believe what the blacks are doing on this? And thinking, I believe it. I believe it. There is a fundamental failure of communication in this country about this. And personally, I blame the left far more than the right. I mean, I think the right has been a little clueless, but I think the left has been actually venal. So yeah, was O.J. guilty? Yes, of course he was. But the case is really interesting for what it revealed about America.
And one of the things that nobody really talks about is just how badly the prosecution bungled the case. And the main reason they bungled the case was that everybody was just smitten with celebrity. I mean, remember Lance Ito? He all of a sudden he's Judge Judy, right? And all of this showboating and all this other stuff. Marcia Clark,
very good. Yeah.
Marcia Clark, and they're all this posturing for the cameras, and they're all famous, and then they always say what is the fundamental tenet of teaching people law and trial lawyers is never ask a question you don't already know the answer to. Right. And you hand a dry glove, with powder on it to a professional actor and ask him to put his hand into there. It was if it doesn't fit, you cannot acquit. What it was the fig leaf that they needed to get the result that they wanted. When he if you watch a guy try to put fingers into a glove like this, it's not so easy. That was the moment where they gave the defense the fig leaf to get away with all this stuff.
Well, this miniseries really does dramatize really well the fact that they had a slam dunk case and they were totally blindsided by the racial aspect of it. They didn't see it coming. And it's an interesting story. I don't know yet how much of it is true, but it's certainly fascinating to watch.
But he did it.
Oh yeah, I mean, the evidence was really heavily against it. That's all we have time for today. Let us know what questions you'd like answered in the space below. For Bill Whittle and PJTV, I'm Andrew Klavan. Thanks for watching.